Type of door. Oh, be quiet, be quiet. All right. I am
Okay.
here.
I was like, something's not right because I was checking my Facebook. So
Oh, okay.
we are actually live.
Good.
All right. So I'm so excited to have a financial expert that has changed my life tremendously. Xavier Epps, who is the CEO and founder of XNE Financial Advising, LLC. And today he is a special guest on my Changemaker series. And I developed this series to really talk to business and community leaders who are making an impact in the community. And Xavier has done just that. I met him through his publicist. A couple of years ago, I had a financial crisis and I needed somebody to help me during that time. And when I tell you, X came in, and I mean, the next day he was there to help me navigate the issues that I was going through. And because of that, I have used his services. I continue to use his services. He got me on a really great financial plan, and has allowed me to shift the way that I see my life. And I have been able to save tremendously. I downsized the way that I lived, and he coached me through not only the personal finances, but also the small businesses and how to separate the two. So I'm excited to have him here because he has blessed so many people outside of myself. And so, X, please just tell people about your company and how you got to financial advising and being so successful.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ashley, for having me on your Changemaker series, YouTube series. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to speak with like-minded entrepreneurs like yourself. And you know, XNE Financial Advising started in October 2011 after I spent about 8 years on Wall Street working with a middle investment banking firm. And during that time, I was a registered broker. I had gotten my FINRA and Security Exchange Commission licenses after I had my bachelor's degree, and traveling to meetings and going to different places like New York City and Boston and back to DC, Southeast and Northeast. I kept saying to myself as I was aging in that time as my first corporate job, I want to do something different than wealth management when I help people, because people would come to me with hey, I want to invest $1,000. I always tell the story to everybody that I speak with that asks me about my background or how I got started. You know, someone came to me and said they had $1,000 from a tax refund. And I said, oh, okay, cool. What do you want me to do with that? And they said, I want you to invest it. I want you to turn it to 100,000 or 10,000 with some ridiculous amount. I do forget that. And I was like, well, how much you got in savings? And they're like, well, that's it, 1,000. I said, well, what are your debts like? Well, I got a lot of debt, but I don't care about that, because if you take this money and you turn it into this. So immediately that made me say, if people are willing to risk their last penny, the last dollar they have on hope and dream to make it big, I want to start a business to kind of help them, you know, walk before they run, and help them, you know, crawl before, you know, they can just stand on 2 feet. Like I want to be able to make sure they have a baseline. So that's when I started XNE Financial Advising, LLC. We have assisted over 800 people, individuals and small businesses since 2011. We've managed for small businesses in terms of bookkeeping north of $8 million since that same time period. And we've created financial plans like the financial plans created for you, Ashley, for about $6 million worth of families. We've processed more than $120 million in taxable incomes for individuals going back to 2012, and gotten refunds of over $4 million for individuals. So I'm really happy of everything that we've done thus far. There's a whole lot more work to be done.
Most certainly. And that is why I was like, I got to have you, because one of the things that you do with your clients that I've experienced, you're very straight to the point. You're very real. You don't sugarcoat. Any question that I have, you're like, no, don't do that. Why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate your honesty when coaching your clients on the best financial decisions to make. And so today we're going to talk about two subjects that, again, I know this conversation probably is a series of conversations, and I know you'll be working on your book that you're releasing in the next couple of months that will give a wealth of knowledge. But today, I think what's most relevant is we know that with COVID-19, that there may be another shift as we experienced at the beginning in April, where folks lost their job. We went back to phase one, businesses closed. And so people were not prepared. Most people are not financially prepared for emergencies. And I know we've talked about that before, always having emergency fund. So as we draw closer to what may potentially be a shift, once again, economically, what advice can you give to families and individuals so that they can best prepare?
Yeah, that's you bring up a good point, because a lot of businesses, and let's just talk about the consumers first, because they're more impacted by COVID-19 than businesses, believe it or not, because they're what keeps the economy running, the individuals working. Not saying the businesses don't, because the businesses employ them, but just keep it on the individual front. Because we're seeing spikes in COVID-19 cases, the very first thing that you want to do is the same thing you did back in March, is reaching out to all your different billers, reaching out to your creditors and saying, look, the news is out there. You see that the COVID-19 cases are spiking back up across the country. We need help. What type of deferments, what type of forbearance plans are out there available for myself and my family? Don't wait until the country shuts back down to call these creditors and billers. Start now. A lot of them just started back getting, a lot of billers started getting money back from consumers in terms of making payments. But guess what? If they're still unemployed, they're still out of a job, and a potential shutdown could happen, they want you to be proactive and not wait until another shutdown happens and they get inundated with all these calls. A lot of companies and businesses are being very flexible with consumers. A lot of corporations are. So that's the number one thing, because a lot of people have these pride issues when it comes to money, and they say, oh, well, I got my job, and so I don't really need to go ahead and ask my biller or creditor to let me forbear this loan or have this bill reduced. Don't let your pride stop you from having cash flow, because that's the major concern in a crisis, is being able to have as much discretionary money and cash flow as possible, because you don't know how long this next wave is going to be, and you don't know what impact it's going to really have on you until it comes. So that's one of my biggest things, is start calling your billers and saying, look, COVID-19 cases are spiking again. What is it that you can do to help me and my family?
Do you think most of those companies and billers are starting to think about that? Like, do they have are they prepared?
A lot of companies probably aren't as prepared as they would like to be. And this is me with my financial hat on. That's from a cash position on a balance sheet perspective. If you have a corporation that's pretty solid in terms of how much they got in the bank in terms of cash, and they don't really have a lot of long-term debt or current debt, they're able to withstand economic issues like this. But if you have a corporation that may not have that really big balance sheet that can withstand not getting income, because when these companies, i.e. Verizon has a really big cash position. It can withstand this, but a smaller company may not be able to withstand this. Right. So you need to be able to say, look, we know that this is going to happen again. So in order for us to get prepared, let's start taking consumers at their word and see what they can do to help, what they can do to mitigate this loss. You may not be able to say we can push it out a whole month, but maybe you can ask the consumer, well, can you do 25%? Right. So, you got to think of it from both ends.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that goes back to the point of, the stimulus checks. We know that folks have gotten it from the first round, and it's been approved that they're going to release another stimulus check. It's going to be a lower amount. What would you advise? And for people that are on unemployment, I know a lot of people are considering using the money to invest? As you know, the susu is going around. What would you say? How should we be using that money? What advice can you give? Because I know you've seen a lot of clients that have came to you about this same thing.
So the susu. All right. So let's taking your stimulus check and giving it to someone in your family or a friend that is going to make a 100% return, or in some of these cases 1,000% return when they say you give them 500 and they're going to give you 21,000. These are unbelievable type of returns. I will caution people to do that. How susus work, and I'm not going to call them illegal, because a proper susu is about resources in a community. When you exchange money between parties, that's not a susu. Even the IRS and the state regulators will tell you, if you're giving somebody money and expecting in return more money, that's not only is that not a gift, that's not a susu, and if you're not exchanging products and services, like there's no service or product being exchanged when you give somebody $100 or when you give somebody $500. So because absent products and services, when you're giving money to people in hopes to get more money in return, that's the scheme part of it. I don't want to say pyramid scheme because people have a heart attack. That's the scheme part of it. Anytime you giving money is tied or contingent to you bringing more people in, that's a scheme. That ain't a susu. And people need to go back and look at the origin of susus and how foreigners use it to leverage it, and exchanging beans and rice and vehicles to help family members out to get on their feet when they came to America. So people really should look in how susus in terms of resources. It wasn't about money. It was about the mere fact of having the resources available for family members to use so that they can better themselves and do other things. When you're exchanging money for no goods and no services, I don't care if you tie the Internal Revenue Code into it, because in the Internal Revenue Code with these susus, they're talking about gifting an estate. A gift is a gift. If I give you $500 and I'm expecting something in return, that's not a gift. If anything, it's probably an Indian giver, right? Because if I give you 500 and now I want you to give me back 500, well, that's not a gift. You didn't just give me a gift. It's an entry. It's a fee. It's a fee to do what? And that's where the ambiguity and the issue comes into with the susus, because there's no regulation. There's no federal or IRS or state that step in and say, look, you gave $1,000, you didn't get it back. We're going to go and get it back for you because it's FDIC insured. It's not FDIC insured. So your money is just out there. There's no contract or contractual obligation to give you that money back. You getting more money or getting money is contingent on you bringing in more people and your people bringing in more people. That's a scheme. That's a scheme, flat out. And people want to mask it as anything else. Is ridiculous. But I'm not here to criticize. I just observe and I sit back, and when people come to me that got burnt trying to do this, I'm looking like I told you so, but I don't say it.
Right.
But don't do it. If that's what you got, if that's your last dollars you got, and you want to produce it and go forth with it, by all means do it. But I'm urging people not to put themselves in a bigger financial bind, because some people aren't getting money back for weeks. Oh, I gotta wait till I get in the water. Well, what week is that? Week number 7? Rent was due 2 weeks ago. Like, come on, we gotta get serious, people. Like,
because it's like firewall. I've had like 4 or 5 people send me, and I'm like, I don't know about this, and I knew I had this chat, so I said, well, why not bring it to the live? So how would you say people want to get, they want to flip their money, they want to use the stimulus check, they want to get some money quick? What's your suggestion? If not,
I mean, outside of susu, you do things that are conservative. You look at if again, I believe in proper financial planning. If people are getting stimulus checks, especially people that have been getting all this unemployment cash flow, you're getting $600 a week extra on top of whatever else you were getting. There is no reason why people shouldn't be well positioned coming out of COVID-19 era to have a stockpile of cash. Your main objective right now should be preservation of capital, preservation of cash, not how can I flip this money? No, it should be how can I keep this money? How can I make sure I'm as risk adverse as possible? Because we don't know what the next wave of COVID is going to be. We don't know how bad it's going to be for families. So we need to make sure that we're preserving as much capital, as much cash as possible during these times. So I would say if people are looking for ways to multiply their money, put it in some CD or put it in a high yield savings account earning 0.75% to 1%. You know, you got the different ones, American Express Savings, you got Barclays, you got Market by Goldman Sachs, you got Capital One that I think has 360 still. You got all these banks offering really good yields, close to 1% yields. If you want to make some interest off your money, put it in. But it's all about preservation of capital right now during COVID-19.
Absolutely. I did want to talk about, and that makes sense. That makes sense. Holding on to your money because we don't know what the remainder of the year is going to look like. But the other piece is that for those that necessarily weren't financially hit, but are actually at a good place, they were able to keep their job. Plus, they got the stimulus check. And they have a little bit to play with, and they're thinking about investing. I wanted to talk about stocks, and we talked about your resources that you had around Urban One and how we should invest into Black-owned stocks and companies. Talk a little bit more about that and what people could do on the investment side.
Yeah, so for those that are able and capable and competent about investing 101, and like you said, those that haven't really been financially impacted by COVID-19, they're still getting a regular paycheck. These are going to be like your salary employees, especially a lot of government employees, the government officials. A lot of them have had steady paychecks through and through. So they're probably in the best position to make investments. I've been looking at companies like Urban One, Class A shares, not the Class C or Class D shares. Class A shares have voting rights. So if you're going to buy stock or buy shares of a company, you should buy the shares that have voting rights, not the shares that don't have voting rights. But anyway, I was looking at them because what piqued my interest is, one, it's not a lot of Black-owned, publicly traded companies, right? Just a very handful of them. And I've had the pleasure to work with a publicly traded industrial bank. And you remember that partnership that I had with them. And I'm always pleased to be able to do that. So Urban One came on my radar, and I did my due diligence like I was back in the Wall Street days in 2011. Did my due diligence, went through the financials, went through the management discussions, and I saw a really big opportunity. I still do, given what's going on in the Black community, given how many people want to support us from a corporate perspective, individual perspective. I see a really big opportunity for someone like Urban One in the media world to take this and leverage it and make more advertising revenue off of it, which will then lead to a bigger company, more valuable, and a bigger earnings per share once they start reporting in quarterly reports. But at the end of the day, when you're looking for investments, you want to look at things that are cyclical, things that are, risk adverse to whatever's going on in COVID. Just today, oh God, I'm gonna shoot myself. Amazon or Apple? Lord, I can't remember which one. Somebody reported earnings today. It's one or two of them. They reported earnings today. Earnings beat the pants. It wasn't Apple. It must have been Amazon. God, it's one of those big companies. But they reported earnings, and then they reported a 4-to-1 split. So on their stock, what that means is they said our stock is so big that we can chop this 4 ways, create all these new extra shares in the market, and we take a stock that was trading at $2,000 a share, and now it's going to be trading at $500 a share.
Wow!
And now because there's going to be more shares on the market. And, they did that because, one, you want to be able to let people have more access to buy it, right? But two, it was because they were just so freaking valuable. Like, they beat the pants off of the estimates in the marketplace. And it was like, we did terrific. We did better than anyone can imagine for COVID-19.
Right.
And so you're gonna, and I think that's the other thing that makes this COVID-19 today GDP or yesterday GDP was released, and it said that the economy contracted by 30%. 30%. That's unheard of. Unheard of. You would think the Dow Jones would have went 50% today because of that news. But the reason why it didn't, because it's different. The government stepped up with stimulus checks. The government stepped up with unemployment benefits. The government stepped up with all type of resources for small businesses through the SBA.
Right.
All trillions of dollars being spent is unnatural for the economy. So to see something like that, and then to see companies reporting earnings that are so much better than what analysts expect it to be, is almost like you're living in a twilight zone. So you're like, well, what do I really invest in? You go with the conservative. So whenever you're doing your research for investing right now, you go with the conservative, you do a percentage of your disposable income into these different stocks, but you do stocks that are doing well despite COVID-19 times. Got you.
So as far as your services, because you do pretty much everything around finances.
Yeah, a little bit of everything, yep.
Tell folks what you do and tell folks what you're going to be doing.
All right, so I like how you did that. So what XNE Financial Advising does is that we offer services for individuals and small businesses. For the small businesses, because I'm hurting. I'm hurting because I had some small business clients that had to pull back on services, and this is the time that you don't want to pull back on having a financial advisor or bookkeeper, because they see things going on that can help you on a month-to-month basis. But for small businesses, we offer bookkeeping. So you have a lot of people getting the EIDL, the PPP. They get all these different loans, and they got this capital they're sitting on, and ain't got a clue of what to do with it, right? Yeah. This is the time to invest in an accountant. It gotta be me, it could be anybody, an accountant, a CPA, a bookkeeper, a financial advisor. This is the time to invest in them, because now you have the capital to do it, to rebrand your business, to take it to the next level during COVID-19. Now that you had the capital that is deferred in terms of some of these loans with SBA, you ain't gotta pay it back over 12 months. 12 months, you ain't gotta do anything. So that's a lot of time to have $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, and to not do something efficient with it would be a sad mistake for a business. So, we offer bookkeeping for small businesses and tax preparation. On the individual side, we offer the financial plans, and that's looking at your credit, your debt, seeing what you're doing wrong there and what you could be doing better. Your taxes, of course, because a lot of people think because tax season ended, they ain't got to worry about it again until next year. Well, what happens in tax season should help you prepare for next year. Right. So we provide tax analysis to say, well, what happened last year so it don't happen again next year if it was a liability, if you owe money, because we don't want that to be a reoccurring issue. And then we create a budget around that. So we wrap the debt, the credit, the taxes all together into a financial plan that you can follow every payday for the next 12 months. So if it ain't working out, it's simply because you're not following the plan. And it breaks all your bills down to due dates. You know how it does. It shows you what to do every pay before you get paid. And then you can play with it to say, I want to do more on debt, less on savings. And it will update and show you what impact it has on your credit score in this financial plan that we create for individuals. And outside of that, we do monthly bookkeeping for individuals. Let's say I create a plan for a client or a couple, and they're like, look, I don't want to screw this up. Well, I say, well, I will pay your bills. I know, insane. I will pay your bills for a couple paychecks for a fee, for a small nominal fee, until we get over a hump in the budget so that you feel more comfortable with using and leveraging what's here in front of you.
Yeah, it is insane, but I also, because your plan is pretty straightforward. I'm going to tell you, if you don't follow it, it's your fault. Yep. But I know how it is, people with money. Sometimes they just don't like to follow the rules. Mm-hmm. And some people are willing to pay, okay, for you to get me on the right track, I'll pay you to do that, which is crazy. Right. But I don't know a lot of advisors that offers that type of service.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to do, something unique. Like I said, coming out of Wall Street, I didn't want to just be wealth management, because I could have very well went right back into wealth management. I felt like I was really good. I managed more than 30 different financial models for the banks and thrift sectors, from Bank of America, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, you name it. It wasn't a bank that I didn't know about, that I probably didn't create a financial model, a discounted cash flow, evaluations about the stock, where this should hit, EPS, interest-bearing accounts, you name it. I did it, right? So I could have easily went back into that business and became super, super wealthy if I wanted to, but I wanted to do something unnatural, because a part of me always wanted to do something different, go against the grain, not do what everyone else was doing. And I said, let me start a business that's going to help people in my community understand what generational wealth is and what's the basis for it. Not the, let me show you insurance policy, let me get you into this annuity. I'm selling you something that you can use day one with your family and your friends if you want them to be a part of your circle and get to what our slogan is: escape to financial freedom. And with people that, like you mentioned not too long ago, that has that capital or that cash flow because they haven't been impacted financially from COVID, they should be looking at ways to reduce their debt burdens. And I'm hopeful that some people are taking these opportunities of having this additional cash flow and not having to pay a bill and saying, look, I mean, even I said, well, wait, you all are telling me because of COVID-19, y'all going to waive all of this? Oh, yeah, let me sign up. And I took that extra cash flow and paid off a debt. I mean, these are wonderful opportunities. You're always supposed to take these opportunities, even if it's really bad for others, for yourself, to strengthen your portfolio, strengthen your finances, so that you can be in a better position to help someone that may not have, the needs that's there to help. So it's beyond me that people don't use these opportunities to create more generational wealth.
And this is the last question I have as we close out. Do you think within the Black community, that's what we struggle with? We like to spend and not use a time like this to really save. Is that what you've been noticing?
Yeah. I mean, it's even some of the questions, your questions are, geared from what you hear in your own community. Everyone's big on, well, how can I take this money and invest it to make more of it? That ain't really the motive here. The motive is preservation of capital. But a lot of people in our community don't understand that. So they're risking the money. Guess what? The market all over the place. It's up, it's low, it's in between, sideways, up. It's all over right now, the Dow Jones. So you're taking the little money that you're getting and investing in an unstable market right now. It's about preservation of capital. Once the market calms down, once the economy gets back to normal, once COVID cases stop spiking, then you can take on average a couple of those dollars that you were saving and invest it into a stable market. Everything about the stock market is based on longevity anyway. You don't look at the short-term patterns and trends to try to predict where the market's going to go. You typically look at a decade by decade basis where the market is. And over the last 100 years, the market has always been higher every 10 years. You go back 10 years ago, the market is still 25, 30% higher than it was 10 years ago, and so forth and so forth. So there's never been a period where the market hasn't rebounded and got back to gains. When people sell out of their positions, that's when they realize a loss. And I always got to tell people that, the market is falling 500 points, 1,000 points. Don't do nothing. If you got stocks that you really trust in and it's going to be around after this, don't sell out of it, because your stock, your value can go from 1,000 to 50 during this collapse. But if that stock comes back,
it's gonna boom
you
up.
will only lose out if you sold at 50. And you stayed there and the stock came back and got back to the price it was 2-3 years later, you didn't lose. You didn't lose. So it's teaching people that when I'm talking to them about the basic fundamentals of financial management and taxes and debt, because it's important, because people don't know and just haven't been taught it.
Right. So X, tell us how people can be connected to you if they need your financial coaching or services. How can they reach you?
Yeah, so you can reach out xnefinance.com or XNE Financial for the social media handles. That's XNE Financial, just like that, all together, for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then my own personal brand, Finance Guy X. Same thing, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we're actually in the final stages of our manuscript being produced. So there'll definitely be a book coming out this year, probably fall soon, about budgeting and taxes and debt, and just kind of taking people through my mentality and methods when it comes to managing money.
That's great. I'm super excited for you with that book that you're going to be releasing. And again, I want to personally thank you for your services that I've had with my personal finances, as well as ANJPR. Definitely been a great attribute to the way that I've navigated finances for myself. And thank you again for joining the Changemaker series.
Very welcome.
Posted on YouTube and Facebook, and I'll be repurposing this video for those that want to check it out on IG. But again, thank you for your servitude to the community, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.